The massive crystal chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with nervous energy as hundreds of representatives from the most advanced species in the known universe gathered for an emergency meeting. The usual pomp and ceremony were noticeably absent. Instead, worried whispers echoed across the vast hall as the central hologram displayed a swirling mass of purple and black energy growing larger by the second. Council Leader Marcus, a tall being with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer under the chamber's lights, raised his hand for silence. The whispers died immediately. "Fellow council members," he began, his voice grave. "The quantum anomaly in the Centaurus sector has grown beyond our worst predictions. 3 inhabited systems are now in direct danger, and our best estimates suggest we have less than 30 days before the anomaly reaches critical mass." A hologram zoomed in to show 3 star systems, their planets glowing red to indicate the danger. Several council members gasped as they saw the projected path of destruction. "Surely the architects can handle this," called out one representative. "Their technology is the most advanced among us." The architect representative, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline shell, floated forward. "We have analyzed the anomaly. The energy patterns are too unstable. Any attempt to approach within 1 light-year would result in the immediate destruction of our containment vessels. We cannot help." More whispers filled the chamber, this time tinged with fear. The architects never backed down from a challenge, if they deemed it too dangerous. "What about the quantum mines?" suggested another voice. "Their computational powers have already been tried," interrupted a shimmering cloud of neural networks representing the quantum mines. "The chaos patterns within the anomaly exceed our predictive capabilities. We cannot risk direct interaction." One by one, the most powerful species in the galaxy admitted defeat. The warriors of Krell, known for their fearlessness, declared the mission beyond acceptable parameters of risk. The energy weavers of Nexus Prime calculated a 99.98% chance of failure. Even the Voidwalkers, beings who traveled through dimensional rifts for fun, refused to approach the anomaly. In the growing silence, a small figure at the back of the chamber cleared their throat. It was Representative Baker from Earth, one of the newest and least advanced members of the Council. "Earth has some experience with containing dangerous quantum events," Baker said, his voice steady despite the dismissive looks from other representatives. "We might be able to help." A burst of laughter echoed through the chamber. Council Leader Marcus didn't join in, but his expression showed clear skepticism. "Representative Baker," he said carefully, "while we appreciate Earth's offer, let me remind you that your species is known for being—" He paused, searching for a diplomatic word. "Exceptionally cautious in space exploration." "You mean cowardly," sneered the Krell warrior. "They still use triple redundancy in their life support systems, and physical backup controls in their ships," added another representative, drawing more laughter. "They run thousands of simulations before attempting any major space operation," chimed in a third. Baker stood his ground. "Yes, we do all those things. We're careful. We plan. We prepare. And we survive." The laughter died down as Baker continued. "While other species were developing faster than light travel, we were perfecting our containment technologies. While others were building massive space stations, we were developing fail-safe systems and backup protocols. We may be slow, but we're thorough." The council leader studied the human representative thoughtfully. "And you believe these excessive safety measures might help with the anomaly?" "We won't know until we try," Baker replied. "But unlike the other species here, we're willing to try. We just need to do it our way." A heavy silence fell over the chamber as the council members looked at each other. The hologram continued to swirl ominously in the center, a constant reminder of their desperate situation. Finally, Council Leader Marcus nodded. "Very well. Earth has permission to attempt containment of the anomaly. You have full authority to approach this problem your way." As Baker left the chamber to contact Earth Space Command, he heard the whispers behind him. Some mocked the idea of sending cowardly humans to handle a crisis that had defeated the greatest powers in the galaxy. Others bet on how quickly the humans would turn back. But Baker smiled slightly as he walked. Sometimes, he thought, what others saw as cowardice was simply wisdom in disguise. And soon, the galaxy would learn the difference. The Earth Space Command Center in Nevada buzzed with activity. Admiral Robert Wells stood before the massive wall screen, studying the data streaming in from the Galactic Council. The quantum anomaly's purple swirl looked even more menacing on the high-resolution display. "So they laughed at us," Wells said, a slight smile crossing his weathered face. "Then asked for our help." "Yes, sir," replied Baker, now present via hologram. "Every advanced species refused to approach. They think we're crazy for even considering it." Wells turned to face the room full of Earth's top scientists and space crew members. "Ladies and gentlemen, they call us cowards because we triple-check our equipment. They mock us because we plan for the worst. Today, we'll show them why we do things our way." He pressed a button, and an image of a ship appeared on the screen. "This is the research vessel Prudence. She's our newest ship, built with every safety feature and backup system we could think of. Some called it a waste of resources. They're about to learn why it wasn't." Captain David Miller stepped forward. At 45, he wasn't the youngest captain in the fleet, but he was known for his methodical approach and calm under pressure. "Sir, the Prudence is ready. My crew has run through every possible scenario we could think of." "How many simulations, Captain?" Wells asked, knowing the answer would shock their alien observers. 10,000, sir. We've practiced everything from total power failure to dimensional shifts. The alien representatives watching our preparations think we're wasting time. But that's exactly why you were chosen," Wells finished. "Give us your crew report." Miller nodded and brought up his crew list. First Officer Linda Reed, 15 years of experience in quantum events. Engineer Mark Wilson, designed half the backup systems himself. Dr. Rita Brown, our physicist, wrote 3 papers on quantum anomalies. Every crew member was chosen not just for skill, but for their ability to stay calm and think clearly under pressure. The alien observers watching the briefing shifted uncomfortably. One of them, a Krell warrior, couldn't contain himself any longer. "This is ridiculous," he burst out. "While you waste time with endless preparations, the anomaly grows stronger. A Krell ship would already be on its way." Wells turned to the alien observer with a steady gaze. "And how many Krell ships have been lost to space incidents in the past year?" The Krell warrior fell silent. 17, Wells answered for him, "while Earth has lost none. 0 casualties in deep space missions for the past 5 years. That's not cowardice, friend. That's competence." The briefing continued as the crew went through their final preparations. In the ship's hangar, engineers performed their 7th equipment check of the day. In the simulation room, crew members ran through emergency procedures one last time. The alien observers watched with a mixture of frustration and reluctant curiosity. "Look at this," muttered one alien to another, pointing at crew members loading what seemed like excessive backup equipment. "They're even bringing mechanical backup computers." "Mechanical, in case their quantum computers fail. And paper maps," added another, shaking his head. "Physical, printed emergency procedures." What the aliens saw as ridiculous overcaution, however, the humans knew as proper preparation. Each crew member carried personal emergency beacons, backup air supplies, and survival gear. Each system on the ship had at least 2 backups, and some had 3 or 4. Finally, after what seemed like endless preparation to the alien observers, Captain Miller gathered his crew for a final briefing. "We've all heard what they're saying," he told them, looking each crew member in the eye. "That we're cowards. That we're too cautious. But remember this. 23 ships from various species tried to study similar anomalies in the past decade. 21 were lost with all hands. The only 2 that survived. They were the ones that ran away at the first sign of trouble. He paused, letting that sink in. We're not going to run, but we're not going to be reckless either. We're going to do this the human way, carefully, methodically, and thoroughly. Every simulation we've run, every backup we've added, every precaution we've taken, it all matters. Because we're not just carrying the hopes of Earth now. We're carrying the lives of millions in those threatened systems. As the crew of the Prudence made their final preparations to board, the alien observers finally fell silent, watching with growing interest. Perhaps some of them were beginning to think there was something to this human approach after all. The Prudence moved slowly through space, its powerful sensors scanning every cubic meter ahead. In the observation deck, alien representatives watched with growing impatience as Captain Miller ordered yet another scan of the area. At this rate, growled the Krell observer, we'll all be dead of old age before they reach the anomaly. First Officer Reed looked up from her station with a calm smile. Better old age than a quick death from rushing in blindly. The ship's main screen showed the quantum anomaly growing larger as they approached. Its purple-black mass swirled like an angry storm, sending out waves of energy that made their instruments flicker. Dr. Brown sat at her station, studying the readings with intense focus. Her eyes widened suddenly. "Captain, I'm seeing something interesting in these energy patterns." "Show me," Miller ordered, moving to her station. The main screen filled with data streams. To the alien observers, it looked like chaos, but Dr. Brown pointed to specific patterns. "See these repeating sequences? They're not random. There's a pattern here, but it's complex. If we hadn't taken the time to gather all this data..." She was interrupted by a violent shake that rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed across every console. "Energy spike," called out Engineer Wilson from his station. "Main power fluctuating." The alien observers tensed, expecting panic. Instead, they watched in surprise as the human crew calmly switched to backup systems without missing a beat. "Switching to secondary power grid," Wilson announced. "Backup sensors online. No data loss." Miller nodded. "Just like in Simulation 1247. Dr. Brown, continue your analysis." The Prudence pushed forward, now running on its backup systems. The alien observers exchanged glances. Any of their ships would have retreated by now, but these humans seemed almost comfortable with the situation. "Look at these readings," Dr. Brown said, pointing to her screen. "The anomaly isn't just random quantum energy. These patterns, they remind me of something." Another shake hit the ship, stronger this time. The main lights flickered and died, replaced immediately by backup lighting. More systems failed, but each time, a backup kicked in smoothly. "Third power grid engaged," Wilson reported. "All critical systems stable." The Krell observer couldn't contain himself. "This is madness. You've lost half your main systems." "No," Miller corrected him. "We've successfully switched to our backup systems, exactly as planned." "There's a difference." Dr. Brown suddenly straightened in her chair. "Captain, I need to show you something." She pulled up a comparison on her screen. "Look at these energy patterns from the anomaly, and compare them to this." Miller studied the screen. "What am I looking at?" "The second pattern is from Earth's quantum containment facilities, specifically from our safety systems." She looked around at the crew. "This anomaly, it's not natural, it's artificial. And I think it's a safety system." The revelation hit the bridge like a physical force. The aliens stared at the humans in confusion as the crew began working with renewed purpose. "If it's a safety system," Miller said, "then it's probably designed to prevent something worse." "Dr. Brown, can you identify what it's trying to contain?" "Working on it, Captain. The pattern recognition software is..." Another violent shake interrupted her, and this time, several consoles went dark. "Fourth power grid engaging," Wilson called out. "We still have 3 backup grids remaining." The alien observers watched in amazement. Their most advanced ships typically had 1 backup system. The humans had 7 power grids total. "Captain," Dr. Brown called out, excitement in her voice despite the crisis around them. "I've got it. The anomaly. It's not just a safety system. It's a fail-safe, like the ones we use. But it's ancient, possibly millions of years old, and it's malfunctioning." Miller nodded, a slight smile crossing his face. "Now that's something we understand, isn't it? Failing safety systems are exactly what we prepare for." He turned to his crew. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is no longer just a containment mission. This is a repair job. And if there's one thing humans know how to do, it's fix broken safety systems." The alien observers watched in stunned silence as the human crew began adapting their plans, their supposedly excessive preparation now proving to be exactly what they needed to face this challenge. The Prudence continued its careful approach, now with new purpose. These humans, it seemed, weren't just surviving the anomaly. They were beginning to understand it. And understanding, as any human engineer would say, was the first step to solving any problem. The situation aboard the Prudence had reached a critical point. Red warning lights bathed the bridge in an eerie glow as the quantum anomaly's power grew exponentially. Through the main viewport, they could see the alien observation fleet retreating rapidly, their ships becoming tiny dots in the distance. "Cowards!" the Krell observer shouted at his own people's retreating ships. He had chosen to stay aboard the Prudence, his opinion of humans slowly changing. They flee while humans stand their ground. Captain Miller ignored the outburst, focusing on the crisis at hand. "Status report. The anomaly's expansion rate has doubled," Dr. Brown reported, her fingers flying over multiple keyboards. "At this rate, it will reach the first inhabited system in less than 48 hours. Another violent shake rocked the ship. Sparks flew from one of the consoles as systems began failing faster than before. "Fifth power grid just failed," Engineer Wilson called out. "Switching to sixth grid. Only one backup remaining after this." First Officer Reed studied her readings with growing concern. "Sir, the alien fleet has jumped to safe distance. We're the only ship within 10 light-years of the anomaly." The ship's AI spoke up, its mechanical voice calm despite the chaos. "Hull integrity at 60%. Radiation shield holding at 43%. Recommend immediate retreat." Miller stood from his chair, walking to the main viewport to study the swirling mass of energy before them. "Dr. Brown, you said this was a safety system. What exactly is it trying to contain?" Brown pulled up complex diagrams on her screen. "Based on our latest readings, it appears to be containing a tear in space-time. The original builders created this system to prevent the tear from expanding. But after millions of years, the system itself is failing," Miller finished. "And in its malfunction, it's causing the very problem it was meant to prevent." Another violent shake threw several crew members from their seats. Emergency sirens blared as more systems failed. "Sixth power grid failing," Wilson shouted, moving to final backup. The Krell observer gripped his seat tightly. "Even my people would have retreated by now. Why do you stay?" Miller turned to face him, his expression determined. "Because we're not just looking at the danger, we're looking at the solution." He moved to Dr. Brown's station. "Doctor, if this is a safety system, it must have a control center." Brown nodded excitedly, despite the chaos around them. "Yes, I've been analyzing the energy patterns. They all seem to originate from a central point within the anomaly. If we could reach it, we could shut it down properly," Wilson finished, catching on to the idea. "Like powering down a nuclear reactor instead of just abandoning it." The ship lurched again. The final power grid hummed as it took the strain of keeping all systems running. Hull integrity at 40%. Radiation shields failing. Internal temperature rising. The warnings came from all stations, but the crew remained focused. Years of drilling for worst-case scenarios had prepared them for this moment. Miller returned to his chair, opening a ship-wide channel. "All hands, this is the captain. By now you've noticed we're the only ship left. The alien fleet has retreated to safety. They think we're either brave or insane for staying. He paused as another shake rocked the ship. But we're neither. We're engineers, scientists, and problem solvers. And we've just figured out what no other species did. This isn't just a crisis to survive. It's a broken system that needs fixing. He looked around at his crew, seeing determination in their eyes. We've trained for this. Every simulation, every backup system, every redundancy we built in. It was all for moments like this. We're going in. The Prudence turned slowly, its engines powering up to maximum, as it oriented itself toward the center of the anomaly. The Krell observer watched in amazement as these supposedly cowardly humans piloted their ship directly toward certain death. Engineering, Miller called out, divert all remaining power to engines and shields. Navigation, plot us a course to that central point. Dr. Brown, keep analyzing those energy patterns. We need to know exactly what we're shutting down before we try it. As the Prudence moved forward, its hull groaning under the strain, the crew worked with practiced efficiency. They weren't charging in blindly like warriors. They were approaching like technicians about to repair a dangerous but vital piece of equipment. And in that moment, even their alien observer began to understand. What looked like cowardice to others was actually humanity's greatest strength, the wisdom to respect danger while having the courage to face it anyway. The Prudence pushed deeper into the anomaly, its hull creaking under the immense pressure. Inside the ship, the remaining power grid struggled to keep essential systems running. Dr. Brown's eyes were fixed on her screens, watching as new data poured in from their close-range scans. "This is incredible," she breathed, her fingers dancing across multiple keyboards. "Captain, you need to see this." Miller made his way to her station, gripping handrails as the ship shuddered continuously. The Krell observer followed, his warrior's curiosity getting the better of him. "Look at these patterns," Dr. Brown pointed to her screen. "They're not just random safety protocols. This is brilliantly engineered. The entire system is like a massive containment field, similar to what we use in our quantum reactors, but on an astronomical scale." Engineer Wilson joined them, his face lighting up with understanding. "It's like our fail-safe systems. Look at these energy distribution patterns. They're almost identical to Earth's radiation containment protocols." The Krell observer looked confused. "You mean this giant destructive force is just a safety device?" "A very, very old one," Dr. Brown confirmed. "And like any machine that's run too long without maintenance, it's starting to break down. But the basic principles, they're surprisingly similar to human engineering." Another violent shake rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed as more systems reported critical failures. "Final power grid at 15% capacity," called out a crew member. "Hull integrity dropping below 30%. Miller steadied himself against a console. "Dr. Brown, if this is similar to our systems, can we interface with it?" "That's the amazing part," she replied, pulling up new diagrams. "Look at these command structures. They're complex, but they follow logical patterns. It's like finding out that ancient Romans used computer code similar to ours. Different language, same basic principles." Wilson leaned in, studying the patterns. "The fail-safes, they're layered, just like ours. Multiple redundancies, backup systems, emergency protocols. These builders, whoever they were, they thought like us." The Krell observer watched in fascination as the humans grew more excited despite their dire situation. "You seem happy about this. We're still in grave danger." "We're happy because we understand it now," Miller explained. "This isn't just random cosmic destruction. It's a machine. A broken one, yes, but still a machine. And machines can be fixed." Dr. Brown suddenly straightened in her chair. "Captain, I found something. There's a pattern in the energy fluctuations, a rhythm, like a heartbeat. And at the center," she brought up a new image on the main screen. Through the chaos of swirling energy, they could now see something solid, a massive structure, geometric, and clearly artificial, floating at the very heart of the anomaly. "That's it," she breathed. "The control center. The alien races who retreated. They never got close enough to see this. They were looking at the effects, not the cause." Wilson studied the structure's design. Those look like cooling vanes. And those spiral patterns, they're emergency venting systems. This is a containment facility, just like our quantum research stations. Another violent shake threw several crew members to the floor. The lights flickered ominously. "Final power grid at 8%, came the warning. But Miller wasn't listening. He was staring at the structure, a plan forming in his mind. "Dr. Brown, you said the command structures are similar to ours. How similar?" She worked quickly at her console. "Similar enough that we might be able to. Yes, our computers can interface with their basic systems. It would be like using modern tools to repair an ancient machine." The Krell observer looked from one human to another. "You mean you can actually fix this thing?" "Maybe," Miller said, "but we'll need to get closer. Much closer." He turned to his crew. "Everyone, this is no longer a containment mission. We're now repair technicians about to fix the galaxy's oldest safety system." A grim smile spread across his face. "And if there's one thing humans have gotten very, very good at over the centuries, it's fixing broken machines without getting ourselves killed in the process." The crew moved with renewed purpose, their training kicking in. They weren't warriors charging into battle or heroes making a last stand. They were engineers and technicians, doing what humans had always done best, solving problems carefully, methodically, and thoroughly. As the Prudence crept closer to the ancient structure, the Krell observer finally understood what he was witnessing. These humans weren't being brave in the traditional sense. They were demonstrating a different kind of courage. The courage to face a problem with patience, understanding, and careful methodology, even when the universe itself seemed to be falling apart around them. The ancient control structure loomed before them, its massive form barely visible through the swirling quantum energies. The Prudence's final power grid flickered as it struggled to keep the ship's vital systems running. "Hull integrity at 22%, the ship's AI announced calmly. "Estimated survival time, 17 minutes. Captain Miller stood at the center of the bridge, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "Dr. Brown, start the interface sequence. Wilson, prepare the maintenance pods. This is what we've trained for." The Krell observer watched in amazement as the crew executed their emergency procedures with practiced precision. "You've trained for fixing an ancient alien device that's about to destroy several star systems." "No," First Officer Reed replied with a slight smile. "We've trained for maintaining dangerous equipment under extreme conditions. The principles are the same." Dr. Brown's fingers flew across her console, establishing connection with the facility's systems. Now, her screen filled with streams of alien code. It's responding. The basic command architecture is similar to our quantum containment protocols. Another violent shake rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed across every station as more systems failed. "Final power grid at 5%. Wilson called out. "We need to act now." Miller nodded. "Launch the maintenance pods. Dr. Brown, guide us in." 3 small pods detached from the Prudence, each carrying 2 crew members in heavily shielded suits. These were another example of human overcaution. Maintenance pods designed to work in the most extreme conditions, with multiple backup systems of their own. "Pod teams reporting ready," Reed announced. "All safety checks complete." The Krell observer couldn't believe what he was seeing. "You're still running safety checks. Now." "Especially now," Miller replied firmly. "This is when mistakes get people killed." The pods approached the ancient structure, their sensors feeding data back to Dr. Brown. Her eyes widened as she studied the readings. "It's amazing," she breathed. "The entire facility is like one giant fail-safe system. These builders, they thought like us. They built in layers of protection, backup systems, emergency protocols. But after millions of years, Everything breaks down eventually, Wilson finished. Even fail-safes need maintenance. The pods reached the structure's surface. Inside, the crew members used tools that seemed primitive compared to alien technology, but were perfect for this situation. Manual override controls, physical connection cables, and mechanical backup systems. First pod in position, came the report. Beginning interface connection. Suddenly, the quantum anomaly pulsed violently. One of the pods spun out of control, its main systems overloaded. Pod 2 losing power, Reed shouted. Switching to backup systems, the pod's crew reported calmly. Within seconds, the pod stabilized, its redundant systems taking over seamlessly. This is why we plan for everything, Miller said to the Krell Observer. This is why we build in backups for our backups. Dr. Brown's voice cut through the tension. Connection established. I'm accessing the main controls. It's incredible. The whole system was designed to contain a tear in spacetime, but the automatic repair protocols failed centuries ago. The facility's been running on emergency power ever since, trying to prevent a catastrophic failure. Can we fix it? Miller asked. Yes, but we'll need to reboot the entire system. It's like turning off and on again, but with a quantum space-time containment field. The ship shuddered again. More warning lights flashed across the bridge. Final power grid failing, Wilson reported. 3 minutes of emergency power remaining. Miller looked at his crew, saw the determination in their eyes. All their training, all their preparation had led to this moment. Dr. Brown, begin the reboot sequence. Pod teams, stand by to implement emergency protocols. Wilson, divert all remaining power to shields and life support. He turned to his crew. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to restart the galaxy's oldest computer. Let's do it right. The Krell Observer watched in fascination as the humans worked with methodical precision, even as their ship fell apart around them. There was no panic, no heroic last stands or dramatic speeches, just professionals doing their job, following procedures they had practiced countless times. As the reboot sequence began, the quantum anomaly swirling energies began to pulse with new patterns. Everything they had prepared for, every backup system they had installed, every simulation they had run, it was all about to be put to the ultimate test. The ancient facility's reboot sequence had begun. On the Prudence's failing bridge, every crew member watched as the massive quantum anomaly pulsed with new energy patterns. Their ship's final emergency power reserves were dropping rapidly. 1 minute of power remaining, the ship's AI announced calmly. Dr. Brown's fingers danced across her console, implementing the restart protocols. The system is responding. It's accepting our commands. The maintenance pods remained connected to the facility, their crews monitoring the process with careful attention to detail. Even now, facing possible death, they followed their procedures step by step. 30 seconds of power remaining. The Krell Observer gripped his seat tightly. By the ancient stars, he whispered, you humans really are going to see this through to the end, aren't you? Captain Miller nodded, his eyes fixed on the main screen. Right to the end. The careful way. The human way. Suddenly, the quantum anomaly's swirling patterns changed dramatically. The purple-black energy began to pulse with a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat growing stronger. Main facility power systems engaging. Dr. Brown called out excitedly. The original containment protocols are coming online. 15 seconds of ship's power remaining. First Officer Reed studied her readings. The anomaly size is decreasing. The containment field is reestablishing itself. 10 seconds. Wilson worked frantically at his station. Pod teams, disconnect and return immediately. Emergency docking procedures in effect. 5 seconds. The maintenance pods detached from the facility, their engines firing at maximum thrust to reach the Prudence before its power failed completely. 4, 3, 2. The pods slipped into their docking bays just as the ship's final power grid died. For a moment, everything went dark. The bridge fell silent except for the sound of breathing. Then, one by one, emergency lights flickered on. The ship's absolute last backup system, powered by simple chemical batteries. Through the viewport, they watched in awe as the quantum anomaly continued to shrink, its energies now contained and controlled. Dr. Brown checked her readings on her backup tablet. The facility's original systems are fully online. The space-time tear is properly contained. It's actually working better than it has in millions of years. Miller smiled. Sometimes old machinery just needs a little maintenance. The bridge crew's relieved laughter was interrupted by an incoming transmission. The alien fleet had returned, led by the Galactic Council's flagship. Prudence. Council leader Marcus's voice came through clearly. Our sensors indicate the anomaly is disappearing. How is this possible? Miller glanced at the Krell observer, who stepped forward to answer. They fixed it, he said simply. These cowardly humans fixed what our greatest minds couldn't even approach, and they did it their way. Carefully, methodically, with backup plans for their backup plans. The council leader was silent for a moment. Captain Miller, your ship appears to be without power. We're sending rescue vessels. Thank you, Miller replied. Though I should mention, we still have enough emergency battery power to run life support for another 72 hours. Just in case. The Krell observer burst out laughing. Of course you do. As the rescue ships approached, the crew of the Prudence began their standard post-crisis procedures, documenting everything they'd learned about the ancient facility. Their discoveries would revolutionize the galaxy's understanding of quantum containment technology. 2 weeks later, in the Galactic Council chamber, Captain Miller and his crew stood before the assembled representatives of every spacefaring race. Council leader Marcus addressed the gathered beings. Today, we redefine our understanding of courage, he announced. We used to believe that bravery meant charging headlong into danger. The humans have taught us differently. True courage is the wisdom to respect danger, the patience to prepare for it, and the determination to face it anyway, not recklessly, but responsibly. He turned to the Prudence's crew. Your species was mocked for being overcautious. Today, that same caution has saved billions of lives. Your careful preparation, your redundant systems, your endless safety protocols. These are not signs of cowardice, but of true wisdom. The chamber erupted in applause. As Miller looked at his crew, he saw pride in their eyes. Not pride in being heroes, but pride in being exactly what they were. Professionals who did their job the right way, the careful way, the human way. In the months that followed, species across the galaxy began adopting human safety protocols and engineering standards. The word human was no longer synonymous with cowardly. Instead, it came to mean something else entirely. Thorough, prepared, and above all, wise. After all, as humans had known all along, true courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the mastery of it.